Hi, welcome to Buzz and Bark. My name is Patricia, and as you see, we're not being glamorous on this channel. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of a talk about guilt and pets, and also relieving guilt and releasing it. And that's what we're going to do. I've got a whole bunch of tuning forks here, planetary and solfeggios. I've got my singing bowl. I've got blue obsidian, which is for releasing guilt. I've got rhodonite, which is for releasing guilt, and I've got lepidolite, which is for releasing guilt. And then I have green kyanite for just bringing in some soothing love energy for our heart center. And then I'm going to spray, and I'm bringing in the 6 archangels: Metatron above, Sandalphon below, Archangel Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel. They're holding the 4 directions. And before I get started, remember to like, share, and comment. And I also wanted to mention, I have a website, you may have been there, Metaphysics for Everyday Living. Well, I had paid subscriptions, and I'm phasing those out because I had some problems with the payment processor, Stripe, where somebody subscribed to the pay level and then disputed it with her bank. And then I got chargebacks and fees, and it ended up costing me like $80 for somebody who actually subscribed to it and then said that she didn't, and then took it up with her bank. And so it feels like punishment, and so I'm going to be phasing out the paid subscriptions, and I'm asking nobody else to sign up for a paid subscription. There will be donation options instead. So with that said, I'm going to get started on this topic for today, which is relieving guilt. I'm going to use some Reiki, probably some light language, and mostly the tuning forks in the singing bowl. So let's just do the singing bowl first and take some deep breaths, because I'm just got set up, so I'm kind of out of breath myself. Okay, I feel better now. So how does guilt come up? Well, I'm going to give you a story. And it's one in which I am still relieving guilt. And I was fostering the family dog because my parents were not able to take care of him. And he needed to go to a new home, and it was really hard because I kept thinking, well, if I could just get my own place, and if I could, at the time I was working as an astrologer, and if I could just get more clients and I had more money, then I could take him, and my plan was to just take him to a new home with me. But then that didn't happen, and the way that the housing market has been, I heard it's not just in the US, but pretty much worldwide, I wasn't able to find anything that I could afford. And so I was living with my parents, and I had to give him up. Like, I tried everything. I tried to get my dad to get a dog walker. I tried to, get him more vet care. I tried to do so many things, and this dog was basically being neglected. So I found a new home for him, but I just felt so guilty. And when you feel guilty, other people will add to that. So whatever you've got in your own mind, whatever you're thinking about yourself, it will be reinforced by other people. So there was a woman on a bus, and I think she was drunk or she was on some kind of medication or something, and she started chastising me in front of everybody on the bus about how I gave the dog up for adoption and how sleazy that was and all this other stuff. So there are a lot of people right now who are having to give up their pets, not just dogs, but pets, because of the economy, because they had housing, but their landlord sold the place and they can't find anywhere else to rent where they can have a pet, because a lot of these landlords have become really strict. And there's a lot of animal policies, unless you can say that the animal's a service animal or a comfort animal, and then you got to get some sort of proof of that. And so a lot of people have had issues where they've had to either give their pets to another family member, a friend, or take them to a shelter, the Humane Society or something like that. And so there's a lot of guilt around that. We're going to release that. We're going to release that today. And there's also guilt around euthanasia. So you've got an animal who's got late stages of cancer, usually lymphoma, some of the sarcoma or whatever that other one's called, or you've got a cat with severe kidney issues, or an animal with severe arthritis, and it's to the point where they can't function, they're not eating well, they're not able to move correctly, they're having issues with their bladder, with their bowel, and then there's that time where you go, well, the quality of life of this animal is completely gone, so do you do the euthanasia, or do you just wait for the animal to die on their own? And so it's a very hard decision for people to make. It's a very personal decision for people to make. But there's guilt involved with that. And there isn't anybody that I've seen in the Facebook groups or who have been clients of mine with animal communication and Reiki who have not felt that guilt. And then to add to that, because there is so much animal cruelty in the world, people confuse what is cruelty and what isn't cruelty. And so if they think something's cruel in their own mind, they just assume that legally that's considered cruelty or neglect when it actually isn't. So euthanizing an animal that is suffering is not abuse. And there are ways you can go to an energy healer or an animal communicator, and you can ask them to communicate with the animal and ask what the animal's wishes are. And I would say, like, most of the time, an animal is wanting to be free from their physical body because they're in immense pain. They're not able to do what they used to do, such as a cat, not able to leap up onto things, not able to, play, not able to, they like to stalk insects or birds or whatever. I don't like when they do it with birds, but when they're not able to do their normal behaviors, it's like us being confined, like, to a house or a nursing home or whatever it is. They're not able to enjoy their life, right? And some of them will want to hang on a little bit longer because there's somebody else they need to have closure with. So I've heard stories where an animal's ready to die, but they don't die until somebody comes over the weekend or something and they're able to say goodbye. It's just like with us. When we want to say goodbye to people before we're going to pass and we have unfinished business, it's the same for them, because on the soul level, there's still those contracts. And we think of ourselves as separate and so different than all the other creatures. Like, here's all the animal kingdom, and then there's us over here as the human. And humans are part of the animal kingdom. We don't like to admit that because, we have houses and we build things and we have technology and we do all these things that animals don't do, so that makes us different. But actually, no, we have animal nature and we are part of the animal kingdom. So that gives us the ability to use telepathy with animals, to have bonds with them, because we have animal nature. We're mammals, right? We don't want to put ourselves in the same category with whales and dogs and cows, although I don't mind. But we have, somewhere along the way, we've got this superiority complex as humans. And so we feel like we're the ones in charge. We feel like we have the control. And so when something happens to an animal, we feel guilty because there's a part of us that thinks, well, we should have controlled that situation. We should have been the one in charge. We should have been the one that made that decision. But we're not. We're all here under whatever the universal, whatever you want to call it, laws or whatever's going on, right? We're all here in this death, rebirth cycle. And we don't have a choice necessarily of what's going to happen to us. So there's a lot of people who say, well, if you're being negative all the time and if you're doing this or whatever, then whatever bad thing happens to you, you deserve that. But that's not true. And the reason we know that is if you look at the animal kingdom, they're not, animals and birds are not walking around thinking negative thoughts and then something bad happens to them. And because we're also mammals, we're also part of the animal kingdom. There's no human kingdom. We're all part of, there's the elementals, which are the invisible kingdom. Then we have the elements, and then we have the mammals, and we have the birds. And so we have all the insects. And so we have all these kingdoms, and humans are part of the mammal kingdom. And so we don't have control over what happens. And it's not because, we're thinking negative things or whatever. And animals don't get hit by a car or, get shot or whatever's going on because they're thinking negative thoughts. And because we're all connected, there's other energies going on. There's other things going on. Now, there are some situations where it's up to us to make a decision, right? So you may have to give up a pet because you can no longer afford to keep them and you want them to have a better quality of life. Or there's a decision of the end of the life. Are they going to die on their own, or are you going to need to assist them? Or when do you spay and neuter an animal? Or do you spay and neuter an animal? Or all these decisions that we do make when we have pets, but there's still things outside of our control. Like, we don't have any control of whether an animal gets sick. We can try to keep things out of their environment that could make them sick, that could cause cancer. We could not use pesticides and herbicides and toxic products and all these other things, but they're going to get sick at some point, right? They're going to die somehow. They're going to leave their physical body and go into spirit at some point. We all are. And so what ends up happening is we're a society that likes to shame and blame and make others feel really guilty, or we grew up in an environment where guilt was the motivator, right? Since guilt feels horrible, you either stuff it inside or you try to not have it, right? You try to do things like you want to be good, you want to be kind, you want to be compassionate, you want to do all these things so that you never have to feel guilt. So we end up with guilt, we end up with shame, we end up with all these lower energies that get into our chakras, they get into, our energy fields, they create more situations that make us feel worse, because we now have these beliefs about ourselves as being bad and unworthy, which is attached to the guilt. And so we project that onto animals, we project that onto our pets, we project that onto other people's pets, on other people, especially if we don't want to deal with the guilt, right? So if we feel guilty and we don't want to carry that, it's like a hot potato, so we just project it onto someone else or into society or something like that. So those are the ways that we can feel guilty, or we have the guilt, but we don't want to admit we have the guilt, and then our pets manipulate us. So now you've got an obese cat or an obese dog because they can manipulate you and make you feel like you're making them starve even though you're feeding them the amount that they need to be fed, because they can do things with their eyes and their body language and all these things, and they know they can manipulate you because you already have this unowned guilt within you that you don't want to deal with. And so now you've got a dog or a cat or somebody else's dog or cat that's making you feel guilty. So I have some solfeggios. I think I'm only going to use the 396 because 396 is relieving guilt. So I'm going to do some Reiki again. And I want to bring in more self-compassion, because when we have self-compassion, I'm bringing Neptune for that, and I'm bringing in the sun so that we can get back into our center, and and feel more confident and feel more love, for ourselves and others. And then of course I've got my singing bowl over here as well. I don't know if I'm going to end up using that. And I think I'm going to also use the earth tuning fork. and the moon, because the moon is emotions, and guilt definitely affects the emotions. And I'm going to use Mercury for the brain. So I think I'm going to use Neptune and Mercury together. But I think I'm going to start with the, I'm really cold. It is like really super cold. It's May and it's like so cold. I don't know what's going on. I think I'm going to start with the 396. And then I'll just follow my intuition and see where it goes. And I'm going to infuse the Reiki. I'm going to infuse the Reiki in the stones. Okay. Okay, so that way I don't have to beam, I can just do the stones. And this one is mostly for the brain. This is lepidolite. Helps balance the thoughts. And then the blue obsidian, rhodonite, we're going to be using. And then this one's just for the heart. This is very soothing stone. Actually, if you can get some green kyanite and sleep with this stuff, boy, I'm telling you, you're going to have some pretty incredible dreams. All right, so let's start with the 396. And visualize standing under a waterfall of light and just have it wash off the guilt. Any shame, any blame, all of it. Just wash it off. Kind of clearing this from the brain. Let's release all those guilty thoughts. And let's replace it that we're all doing the best that we can. And you are free and liberated from any mistakes you may have made in the past or that you think you made, but maybe they weren't really mistakes. And remember, we're all learning here. And trust me, there's a lot of things in my life with pets that I feel really guilty about, but I'm releasing it now too. Bring in this. Harakatoto marat chokotoba, toe toma, sosoe ketere kotomara koto, hiekato to parato, yeketo to parakoto teama. May we all be filled with loving kindness. May we all be filled with loving kindness. May we all be filled with loving kindness. May you be peaceful. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be safe and protected, loved and connected, and free from all suffering. Okay, I feel like I need to do more of this one. I just feel like there's a lot of heavy energy. Take some deep breaths and just let it all out. Okay, so I'm getting something kind of funny. Animals don't feel guilty. This is what I'm feeling. They don't feel guilty. They may pick up whatever you're feeling. So if you're feeling guilty or you're feeling angry, they're picking up what you're feeling and they're reflecting it back at you. But animals do not. I'm picking up they do not feel guilt. They might feel shame once in a while, but I'm just feeling that there's no guilt for them. That is a projection that we do to them. And if we were to look more inward, we'll find out that there's something from our lives where we're feeling guilty. So you might have done something at work, or you might have cut somebody off on the road, or there might have been something within the course of a day or even a lifetime of something where we are feeling guilt and we are projecting it, like the guilty dog videos or whatever. That's actually not a guilty dog. That's a dog that is afraid that they're going to get in trouble because of the tone of a voice or because of the body language and the, when we put out, like, I don't know, pheromones or hormones or whatever, but when we have certain emotions, we put out certain chemicals or certain energies, you should say. And so they pick up on those energies and they're thinking, uh-oh, I'm in trouble, right? But they're not being guilty. It's just they feel uncomfortable because they're afraid they're going to get hit. They're afraid they're going to get abandoned. They're afraid that something really horrible is going to happen to them. But they don't make a connection between, tearing up the toilet paper all over the house or ripping up the couch and the emotions of the human. They don't make that connection. So even when you punish a dog, like say they pee on the carpet like it's 6 a.m. and you notice it at 5 p.m., they don't remember peeing on the carpet. They don't remember doing something wrong. Now, they may feel sometimes like they let you down because they know they're not supposed to go to the bathroom in the house, but something happened and they went to the bathroom in the house, and they know you'll be displeased, but that doesn't mean that they feel guilty. But they do feel fear. So their fear is that they're going to get abandoned, that they're going to be kicked out of the pack or something of that nature. And it's terrifying for them. So punishing an animal for something that they did hours ago isn't really productive. In fact, it's counterproductive because they don't make the connection. And so now they just become afraid of you. And they see you as being irrational, right? Like, why is this person screaming and doing all these things and like throwing something at me or whatever it is? So then what you end up with distrust. So now you've got an animal that's not going to trust you because they don't know, what mood you're going to be in. So that's something to consider. And that's not to make anyone feel guilty. It's just that animals don't feel guilt and they don't feel remorse and they don't feel a lot of the things that we feel, that we project onto them. So let me do this one more time so that we can clear that. Okay, so the other thing that I'm coming up with is when we become more mindful, then we're going to have a better relationship with everyone, including our pets, because when we become more mindful, we know what we're projecting, right? We know what our thoughts are, because when we're just running around, we have all these emotions and feelings and mental activity going on, and we're not aware of it because we're not quieting ourselves down, right? We're just, and there's just so much chaos going on in our minds. And so when we don't know what we're putting out, like we don't know, oh, like sometimes we may not even be emotionally intelligent, right? That's something to work on as well. It's like we might be feeling angry, but we don't realize we're feeling angry. Or we might be feeling guilt, but we don't realize we're feeling guilt. Because we're not able to label it. We're not able to go, okay, that emotion I'm feeling, this is what it is. And so then we're just throwing this energetically at the world. And animals are very sensitive. So they're picking up these balls of energy from us that we're not even aware we're putting out there. And then it creates stress. It creates behaviors that we don't want them to do. So when we want them, we have to become more coherent. We have to be more clear in our minds, and then we can visualize the behaviors that we want from them. And then when we do that, they're getting a clear message because they want to please us in some ways. I mean, maybe not so much cats, although some of them do. So then we need to work on, again, I always get this as part of the animal communication and even the Reiki. The clearest message that I get is that when we become healed ourselves, the more we heal ourselves, the more we heal our minds, and my mind gets very chaotic, but the more we can clear our minds, the more we can focus in a way where we're conscious of it, the better relationships we're going to have, not just with pets, but with wild animals, with urban, like urban wildlife, with birds, with forest, with, you'll walk into a forest and everything will feel calm because you're walking in there with you're clear, you're conscious, you're mindful. And when you walk into a space, you bring that in there, and it's a relief, right? Because what else is going on in the world? Chaos. And there's just like crazy stuff happening. And so you can be the calmness. You can be that breath of, that fresh air, that kind of comes into a space. And the more of us that can do this, the planet will become healthier, right? And we won't have all these like natural disasters and all these things, because that's just playing off of the chaos in each of our minds. And when you look at 8 billion humans on the planet, some of them are mindful, and some of them are peaceful, but then you've got the ones who are just dealing with so much stuff, and they don't really have anyone to teach them otherwise. And so it creates chaos, and then you multiply it times billions. And then of course the animals are mirrors, and they're reflecting back to us this. So let's just do this one more time, and then I'll move on to the other tuning forks. This is lepidolite. This one's for the brain. This is like for balancing the brain. And I'm going to balance the emotions with the thoughts. This brings more light in. This is Neptune. Let's do some more Mercury. You know what else balances emotion? The moon. This will help you get in touch with your intuition too, so that you can feel the emotions of others in a healthy way. And that you can read the energy in a room emotionally and mentally. I also want to balance the masculine and the feminine. Okay, and I am going to end with the earth. This is for grounding. And it must be working because the birds outside are getting really active. They like when I come in here and do like healing stuff. Okay, let's end with this. Take some deep breaths. Just breathe out any extra dark energies. Just imagine them dissolving in the light. Just kind of doing a little bit of Reiki here. May you be peaceful, may you be well, may you be happy and free from all suffering. I want to use this one more time. Remember to drink a glass of water and to give some fresh water to your pets throughout the day. And if it's purified, that's even better. And if you're sitting upright, then push the soles of your feet into the ground. If you're sitting cross-legged, then press your legs into the ground. And if you're sitting on a chair, if you're laying down, then press your body into the surface. This will help you ground. This one feels really good. Wondering if I have one more stone that I can use. No, I don't. Okay. So I'm ending the Reiki and the sound now. May the Reiki and the frequencies go where they're needed for highest and best for as long as they're needed. This is a timeless healing. So you can rewatch this anytime. And I'm seeing people's pets. I love when that happens. Okay, so I'm going to end this now, but I want to thank you for subscribing, liking, sharing, and commenting. I mean, you're probably thinking, she's really have a lot of wishful thinking here. But anyways, have a wonderful week with you and your pet bonding. And the other thing I've done is I've set an intention with this YouTube channel, so it doesn't matter how many people actually come and watch these videos. I intend that this Reiki go out to the entire planet, whether anybody watches this or not, and that it brings the healing that is needed in anywhere on the planet, and that it connects with all the other light workers and Reiki practitioners, sound healers, and all the different people out there doing this healing work, that we form a collaborative effort here, and that we all connect in the energetic realm, and that we bring peace, happiness, and wellness to everyone. So have a wonderful week with you and your pet bonding. Bye until next week.